Bienvenidos! Today we're going to learn the top 5 letters in the Spanish alphabet that you need to learn to pronounce in order to sound like you really speak Spanish. The top 5 letters of the Spanish alphabet that you need to learn to pronounce correctly are the vowels. And the reason that we sometimes have trouble pronouncing these vowels correctly is because they're also the English vowels. And so we're automatically pronouncing them the English way, whereas we need to learn to automatically pronounce them the Spanish way. So the first vowel we're going to talk about is the letter E in Spanish. It looks like the letter E in English, but it's the letter E when we're speaking Spanish. And all of the vowels in Spanish make a short, crisp sound. In English, we might say A and kind of drag it out and have that yes sound on the end, A. But in Spanish, it's E. And we're going to practice with words that look like English words so that we can really train our minds to change the way we pronounce these letters when we're speaking Spanish. So the first letter, letter E, we're going to pronounce the word for elephant, elefante. What we're going to do is use a highlighter to make these letters pop out a little bit more so that we notice them more when we're reading them. Elefante. Now, when you first start out, if you're struggling with the pronunciation, just slow it down a little bit. Make sure you don't change the way you're pronouncing it though. Don't make the A sound. Just say E. Elefante. Elefante. And then you can speed it up as you get more comfortable pronouncing it. Elefante, elefante, elefante. And eventually you'll be able to pronounce it quickly. And the more words that you master with correct pronunciation, the more automatic it will become to you when you're speaking Spanish and reading in Spanish. Another word that we want to practice pronouncing correctly is very short, but it's the letter N. And we want to be careful not to schwa the letter E and make it sound like an English schwad E or I, like in. We want to say en and make sure we're saying en the Spanish way. Now the next letter is the letter E in Spanish. It looks like the letter I in English, but we want to say E whenever we are speaking Spanish and reading in Spanish. And the word we're going to pronounce is the word for initial. It's inicial. And we're going to underline these I's to make them pop out to us. Okay. Inicial. And we can slow it down if we need to at first. Inicial, 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 and get faster. Another thing we need to be aware of with the letter E in Spanish is when it occurs next to the letter A, because it makes a different sound when we see that in English. So we want to get used to saying that correct sound in Spanish. It's ie, as in viene, viene, or bien. Viene, bien. So we want to pick several words that have that sound in them and become automatic with that so that when we see that combination that we're making the correct Spanish sound. The next letter is the letter A in Spanish. A as in the name Ana. In English it would be Anna, but in Spanish it's Ana. Also the word amable for nice. Amable. The next letter, O, makes a short, crisp O sound. The word is for organization, organización. We're going to make those O's pop. And notice that at the end, instead of the English organization, we have organización. The O makes the O sound. So it's very different from the English pronunciation. So, organización. Organización, 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 organización. We can get faster when we start out slowly. The last letter, the letter U in English would be U in Spanish. Makes the U sound. And the word for usual is usual, usual. Another thing that the letter U does in Spanish, when it's combined with the letter Q, it's silent. And the Q just makes that hard K sound. So the letter U here in this word is silent because it follows the Q. This word is que. So we just have to remember that when the U follows a Q, it's silent, and that Q just makes that hard sound, que. Alright, this is very different from English, so it's important to practice this whenever you're reading Spanish. Now, also, the letter U after the letter C makes the W sound, like our QU, only in Spanish it's CU that makes that sound. So this is cual. So whenever we see the CU, we know we're going to make what would be the English QU sound. Cual. And here's another example, cuantos. And this occurs pretty frequently in Spanish, so does the QU. So it's important to practice several words with this and become very comfortable with these combinations because they're very common in Spanish.